How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the stone. This is the final sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to get used by you. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be out you.
Won't anybody help us? What are we running for? When there's nowhere we can run to anymore. We can't afford to be innocent. Stand up and face the enemy. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible. And with the power of conviction, there is no sacrifice. It's a do or die situation. We will be invincible.
Who the fuck is Karlyn? She's just some sweet lady. She's like in a knitting. She does like a knitting stream. She's like a knitting YouTuber. She does knitting.
Can we grow up a little bit and
Alt
not
Girl
be
sent $200.
retarded?
Have you
Please.
seen the work of Karlyn Borysenko? Anti-commie cult leader and is obsessed with looking at what actual far-left communists are talking about and organizing today, infiltrating them. They infiltrated the universities, schools, media. She has the receipts to back it up. Primary source evidence. Infestation is dire and she calls Republicans idiots eating slop. Agree.
Thank you for the big super chat. Yeah, oh, I know Karlyn B. She's solid. She's funny. I
The
like
great
her.
noticer sent $200.
Literally,
So
not
it's,
Ian.
it's not because I haven't dangled my junk into the combat zone on purpose to get some camera footage, but that's the big part of what's the
Is
problem.
that what you call reporting?
Go
and live
under if
streaming?
you're going to do it.
Yeah,
go
seriously.
undercover. Otherwise, you're wearing a hunk of meat in a lion's den. Nick Shirley, I love you. Take care of yourself, man. Karlyn Borysenko went undercover. Do stuff like that. Like if you want to expose this thing, don't pariah,
But
please.
Ian, here's and I agree with you to an extent.
Fuentes greater. Karlyn. Karlyn B sent $100. Fuentes greater than Rufo. Sorry, I ever doubted you about him. You were right.
Thank you for the big super chat. I appreciate Karlyn. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Good to hear from you, Karlyn. How you doing? Hey, and you were right about the left. 100%. I hope you appreciate some of my content on them recently. But you are totally right about them. So, no, but I appreciate it. Yeah, Rufo sucks. He's from the Manhattan Institute. How could he possibly be good?
Papa Leon sent $20.
Paul
Tracy
Singer.
insists there is you.
Yes.
Karlyn B sent $100. Fuentes greater than Rufo.
Oh,
Sorry.
Nicholas. Did you think I forgot about you, Nicholas? Did you think that I just can't quit Nick Fuentes? It's true. I you know what? Listen. You know what I love about Nick Fuentes is Nick Fuentes and I have the kind of friendship where we can literally just not talk to each other for months and months, but we're not doing it because anything is wrong. There's nothing wrong. Nick exploded and became the most relevant thing in politics. I decided to take myself out of all the bullshit and nonsense and actually just focus on the leftist stuff because I thought that was probably the responsible thing to do. Also, I'm so sick of all the drama on Twitter and all the arguing and all the infighting and all the bullshit and the constant bullshit. There's no other better word for it. I wish I could come up with a variant on the word, but it's just it's bullshit. And so I started no. We are not a retard channel. No. Literally only retards think Nick Fuentes is a Fed. If you think Nick Fuentes is a Fed, you need to self-deport from my channel right now because you're not smart enough to be here, bro. No. No retard shit on the channel. We are Nick Fuentes respecters here. And even if Nick and I don't talk for months and months and months, because you know what? Listen, we're just doing our own thing. It's no offense. No one's upset at anyone. No one got in a fight or anything like that. Sometimes people just, they do their own thing and that's cool. And, but Nicholas, you didn't think I actually forgot about you, did I, bro? You didn't think I turned my back on you? You didn't think I was disloyal in any way? I just wasn't paying attention because I had other shit to do. But when Chris Rufo published that bullshit hit piece, you know what? Listen, I tell people all the time, I am right about 98% of the things I say about the left. I predict what the left is going to do months in advance. I lay out clearly what their organizing strategy is going to be before conservative influencers and pundits and commentators have any fucking idea what's going on. And I appreciate it when people come back to me and they say, Karlyn, I doubted you, but I realized that you were right and I was wrong. And here's some money as penance for me being wrong and you being right. That is the Karlyn is right super chat rule. If you're wrong and I'm right about something, you have to send me a $2 super chat as penance for you being wrong and arguing with me, which you never should have done. And listen, man, back when Nick and I first started talking, what was it, years ago at this point, I didn't want to believe that Chris Rufo was one of the bad guys. And this was a long ass time ago. You have to understand this. I have grown up and matured a lot in my worldview since this happened. But many, many, many years ago, something like 3 years ago or so, I didn't want to believe Nick Fuentes that Chris Rufo was one of the bad guys because I still had this absurd idea in my head that because he had done something that was good at one point, he maybe was still worthy of the benefit of the doubt. And I was wrong about that. And I can say that I'm wrong about that because I was wrong about that. You know what? Listen, there was a whole time period when I started covering this stuff that I was grossly naive to the reality of the system in which I found myself. And I have learned very quickly that pretty much everyone sucks. You can't trust anyone. Everyone's a liar and a shill and a con artist. And even the people that I was very good to for years, I literally started Chris Rufo's career. For people who don't know, I broke the story that started his literal career. I may just have heard the doorbell go off, which is weird because it's 5 o'clock. I don't know why the fuck the doorbell would be going off at 5 o'clock. I might have to go deal with that situation in a moment, but not right now. I hope if my husband left his keys somewhere, he needs to text me and tell me what's going on because I am live on the internet. I don't know why the fucking doorbell is ringing when I'm live on. It's probably a whatnot delivery. Anyway, I'm going to trust my husband to text me if he lost his keys and he needs me to come open the door. But regardless, Nick Fuentes was right about Chris Rufo. Chris Rufo is a massive narrative shill that cannot be trusted. And I've known that for a while, but just like the publication of that just absurd hit piece article that Rufo and his friends at the Manhattan Institute wrote, which by the way, it wasn't even a good article. If people like it was just like first of all, like half the research was done by Chris Burnett, who used to work for Chris Rufo, but like Chris Rufo literally just cribbed Chris Burnett's research on the Groypers, where Chris Burnett did this 50-page expose on all the scandals of all the fucking Groypers and all this stuff. This was like last year sometime. I was number 17 on the list of scandals of Groypers, even though I'm not a Groyper because I'm not a man. And it's like, but the bigger point is like literally no one cared. Literally no one cared when Chris Burnett published that piece. It had like literally zero impact at all. And just like that piece had zero impact, Chris Rufo's hit piece is only going to make Nick Fuentes stronger. And so, just in case it wasn't clear, fuck Chris Rufo. Don't listen to him. He's a narrative Zionist shill. He may have done some good things years ago. And listen, man, just like James Lindsay, I do strongly believe that James Lindsay's earlier work was much better than whatever bullshit and nonsense he's been putting out in the last 4 years. And you have to give people credit for their earlier work. Chris Rufo did very important work at a time when someone needed to do that work. And if it hadn't been him, it probably would have been me. And I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to do my own thing. And so I'm glad he did that work. But now we cannot trust Chris Rufo. He's a narrative shill. Do not believe anything that comes out of that man's mouth, because he's shown you that he's willing to lie about absurd things, like really genuinely absurd things for money. And as soon as someone shows you that they're willing to lie about genuinely absurd things for money, you have to write that person off and never believe another thing they say. It's like with Andy No. I will never take away from Andy No that there was a time when Andy No was actually doing journalism. I think Andy No's book about Antifa that he wrote a long ass time ago was quite good. That doesn't mean that Andy No is doing good work now. Andy No is sitting in an apartment in London, paying other people to do his journalism for him, only reporting on things that go viral on Twitter. No. You misunderstand what's going on and what's welcome here. There is no proselytization in my fucking chat. There is no talk of Jesus in my fucking chat. If you want to talk about Jesus, go to church. You are now getting put in a 5-minute timeout. You come back and talk about Jesus again. You can show yourself out permanently. Anyway, so I wanted to make sure people saw that super chat because that was awesome. And I appreciate Nicholas also admitting that I was right about the left. Nick Fuentes, one of the only, well, not one of the only, there are more people now. But Nick Fuentes admitting I was right too. See, again, and isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Nick and I don't talk or interact with each other for months. There's nothing really wrong. It's just we're doing our own thing. And then we come back and I say, bro, you know what? You were right about that thing. And he said, you know what? You were right about that thing. And then we high five and then we go do our own things again. This is like the perfect internet content relationship right here. None of us really have to do much. We both get told that we're right and we both get that validation, and we get to actually say nice things on the internet instead of fighting with people. So that was pretty great. So appreciate Nick. And people might say, Karlyn, he just said nice things because you sent him money. I have sent Nick money when he has not said nice things at all. I will have you know. But the thing of it is, too, is like, I don't mind giving money to content creators I value. You know what? Adam King is having a little fuck off meltdown. He's like, why'd you send him $100? And I was like, Adam King, I seem to remember a time when I sent you super chats as well with the specific intention that you were going to ask James Lindsay questions, and you stole my money. You never asked him the questions. You berated my audience live on your stream. And then Adam King basically lied about that and said, oh, you asked these absurd questions, when it's all on video. No, I actually didn't. And so Adam King is on Twitter whining about how I paid Nick Fuentes money. And I'm like, I actually paid you money too, you Jewish fucking loser. And when I paid you money, You stole my money. You didn't ask the questions that you were supposed to ask. You berated me and my audience live on your show. You think I care more about giving $100 to Nick Fuentes when he says nice things and he does analysis on the internet that I really value and appreciate, and he provides valuable information to the world? I don't mind paying someone $100 every once in a while for doing that. I mind it far less than I mind paying someone. How much did I pay? Like $50 in super chats to Adam King that day, and he stole my money, didn't ask my questions, berated me and my audience on his live stream, and turned into a massive fucking Jewish faggot on the internet. And it's like, listen, and what Adam King is going to say is, you just hate me because I'm Jewish. No, I actually used to have a fine relationship with Adam King, regardless of whether or not he's Jewish. The reason that I dislike him is he is a liar, a con artist, and a fucking thief. And he's all those things independently of whether or not he's Jewish. If Adam King was a white fucking Christian and he stole my money, berated me on his live stream, and then fucking lied about it, I would have exactly the same problem if he was a white fucking Christian man. He happens to be Jewish, and I'm going to call his behavior Jewish because literally the reason that anti-Semitism exists, P.S., is Jewish fucking behavior. If Jews weren't behaving in a way that caused people to hate them by stealing their money, lying about it, openly defaming them, and being complete fucking assholes, then anti-Semitism wouldn't exist. I would literally be talking about this way but for anyone that did those things to me. I don't know what is so hard to understand. He literally insulted overtly every single person in my audience that supports my work. And Adam King wants to fucking complain that I gave Nick Fuentes $100. Suck my dick, Adam. Whatever. Suck my uncircumcised fucking dick. Like, anyway. Hey guys, welcome to the show. How you guys doing? How's everyone doing today? You guys ready to watch some, speaking of sucking my uncircumcised dick, are you guys ready to watch some queer liberation? Are you guys ready to watch some queer liberation today? You know, yesterday we watched a documentary to kind of introduce people to queer Marxism and the evolution of that whole activist movement through the ACT UP movement. And this was just kind of like an introductory thing. And, you know, it was a documentary, so it was a little bit lighter. Now we're going into it. Now we're going to immerse you guys in queer liberatory subculture. And I have a feeling this is gonna be a really interesting experience for a lot of you, because what we're gonna do today is watching a video, an interview that happened several months ago. It has less than 100 views on Twitter. You guys know there is nothing I love more on the internet than finding these little videos on these little podcasting channels that have like no views, and watching them and listening to them say some of the craziest shit that you've ever heard before. Because the point is not how many views does this video have. The point is, does this video give us insight into their subculture and their organizing strategies? And the people who do these interviews on small little tiny channels with tiny little audiences tend to say more of the quiet part out loud because they haven't learned not to yet. Just because a video doesn't have a ton of views doesn't mean it's not a valuable tool in order to assess what is going on in the subculture. Why do they look like that? That is a great question, Louise. The goal of queer is to annihilate capitalism. Capitalism in this case means the cultural norms that uphold capitalism. So what queer activists are trying to do is to subvert major cultural norms that are upholding the current culture in the United States. Usually that means the gender binary. They want to abolish all gender. They want to make a world of they, thems. They also want to abolish the nuclear family because they believe the nuclear family is the literal means of reproduction of capitalism, and that capitalism will not continue to reproduce itself as a system if people don't learn capitalist values from their parents in the nuclear family. So why do they look weird? There is actually a reason for this. They are queering their appearance to go against capitalistic beauty standards imposed by capitalism on them by basically making themselves look ridiculous, cutting their hair in stupid ways. There's actual queer haircuts where you'll see with like the little bangs and the shaved heads and the mullets. That is like a queer haircut meant to undermine cultural beauty standards. They dye their hair, they're fat. Like their fat is a political statement because they believe diet culture is a product of capitalism, and so they don't want to lose weight because it's a product of capitalism. And so they do all of this stuff. They look weird as a political statement to undermine the capitalist beauty standards. That makes sense? Yeah. There's a reason these people do everything. And when you understand the language of the left, you start to understand, holy shit, every single thing they does has rhyme and reason. And you just have to figure out how they are applying the ideas in any given moment. But great question. I appreciate you starting us off there. By the way, W's in the chat for Tayton gifting a channel membership. Guys, we do have a spy stream coming up later. We have a spy stream coming up in a couple hours. Oh, you can't even see that. Well, that was dumb. That was dumb, Karlyn. There you go. We have a spy stream coming up later, guys. And so we have an excellent opportunity to invite more people to Spy Stream. Spy Stream tonight is going to be a supporter exclusive. Old sub, I promise I'm going to get your super chat next. Spy Stream is a supporter exclusive tonight, guys. We are going inside a live leftist organizing call at 7:30 p.m. So in a couple hours from now. Of course, I'm going to set my goal of getting 100 new channel members on the stream today. If you want to support the work I'm doing, one of the very best ways you can do that is to send in some gifted channel memberships. Gifted channel memberships help support the stream. They also give more people access to Spy Stream later today. I will show you guys how, actually, I'll just show you now how to get to Spy Stream later. When you have a gifted channel membership, what you're going to be able to do, hang on. For everyone who has a channel membership, what you're going to be able to do to get to Spy Stream later is to go to my main channel homepage. You go to the post section, and underneath the post section, the very first post you will find under there is the link to Spy Stream. It's not there on this screen because I'm not a member of my own channel on this account. But if you are a member of the channel, you will find the Spy Stream information there. If you are a member of the Substack, you will find the Spy Stream information there. If you're a member of the Locals or Patreon or Twitter subscriber, you will find the Spy Stream information there. Come and join us later tonight. It's going to be around 7:30, 7:45, and we are going to go watch a live leftist training. And if people want to donate channel memberships to get more people into the Spy Stream tonight, that would be rad. I'm trying to set a goal of 100 new channel members in every single stream I do. And this allows me to spend time streaming with you guys and breaking down this information. And of course, keeping all of my content free for everyone. If you don't want to support my work on YouTube, that's totally fine. You can head over to the Substack, sign up for a membership there, $8 a month, $80 a year. You can support my work on other platforms as well. I am 100% funded by people just like you. And I really, really do appreciate it. Now let's get these super chats from Old Sub Sailor. Thank you, Old Sub. Factoid, I was going through my dad's effects and found an old yearbook. His college was New Mexico A&M before it converted to New Mexico State. The yearbook was named the Swastika. No shit. No shit. That's crazy. Thanks again, Old Sub Sailor. I apologize I didn't get to that sooner. That's crazy. That's crazy. All right. Before we get into our video for today, something popped up on my screen literally as I had hit go live. So I haven't watched this yet, but I want to watch this little clip because someone tagged me in this. And apparently, guys, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? We're about to play a game of how stupid do these people think you are? Is everyone ready? We are going to play a very fun game of how stupid does Dan Bongino and Kash Patel think you guys are? Who's ready for the game? One in the chat if you're ready to play the game of how stupid does Dan Bongino and Kash Patel think you guys are. Two if you think this is a horrible game and you don't think we should play it. So someone tagged me in this video earlier. New FBI Director Kash drops Antifa stunner during interview with Dan Bongino. Wait until you see what's coming in the next month or two. We found them. So apparently, guys, Kash Patel has found the leader of Antifa, allegedly. And it's all taken care of, guys. Don't worry about it. Let's see what was actually.
19 people have been convicted for acts of violence related to Antifa. It's in the indictment. You don't got
19 people. Guys, the FBI has arrested and convicted 19 people. That's less people than I can count on my fingers and my toes put together. If I take off my shoes and I have all my fingers and all my toes, I still don't actually reach the number of fingers and toes that I have with the number of Antifa convictions that the FBI has made. How many radical leftists are there in Minnesota right now? Does anyone remember? Pop quiz for the chat. How many radical leftists are there? Not even in Minnesota. Strike that. In Minneapolis. How many radical leftists are there in Minneapolis? That would be about 80,000. How do we know it's about 80,000? Because the far left has told us this. That is how many people they have in their signal groups, the signal groups that they reconstitute every single day. And so Kash Patel wants us to believe that he's defeated Antifa because they got 19 convictions. I don't think that's realistic, but let's let the man talk. Let's let the whole minute clip play.
19 people have been convicted for acts of violence related to Antifa. It's in the indictment. You don't got to believe me or you. Everybody can go read the public indictment. And it didn't just happen there. It happened in Cop City in Georgia, where we had to go rearrest everybody because the state authorities couldn't get their act together to produce the enough information to take that to trial. So we did. And it's not a creation or manufacturing of information. It exists. It's just a willingness that you and I and this building's new leadership took to say, we're going to look at the facts that exist. We're not going to try to make up facts that don't, so we can serve a political narrative. And wait till you, and I know you know this, but wait till you see what's coming in the next month or two on the funding streams related to this. You and I had launched a serious investigation. We had said these organizations don't operate alone, don't operate in silence. They operate with a heavy, heavy stream of funding. And we started looking into it, and guess what, Dan? We found them.
Okay. Yep. Hey, guys, guess what? Kash Patel thinks he has found the head of the funding source for Antifa, and he's going to tell us where that funding source is in a couple months. I don't know why Kash Patel is waiting, like P.S. Why is Kash Patel waiting to tell us what the funding source is if he actually knows what it is? Why? I mean, I was made to believe that Antifa was a terrorist organization. Is he giving a terrorist organization a couple months head start by announcing, we got him? We have a secret plan to secretly destroy Antifa that we're not going to tell you about, but we got him. Pinky swear, trust us, bro. We found the head of the snake and we're going to cut off their funding. How stupid does he think you guys are? How stupid does the Trump administration think that you guys are? How stupid do these people think the public is? Well, when it comes to conservative normies, yeah, they're right about that. Conservative normies are very, very, very fucking stupid. And do you know why conservative normies are very stupid? Because they are brainwashed by their own fucking retard influencers like Dan Bongino, like Kash Patel, like literally everyone that works in the Trump administration, like all the different people they watch on the fucking Blaze or the Daily Wire or Fox News or literally any conservative outlet at all. They brainwash their own audience to believe lies and bullshit that's completely unhinged from reality. You guys want to know why the left keeps winning? Because the right listens to losers like this who lie to them and they lick it up with a fucking spoon because they are the lies that they are desperate to hear. And their kids are the ones that are going to suffer for it. And you know what? Listen, some people call me callous when I say that. I no longer fucking care. I no longer care. There was a time when I deeply cared about helping people save their children from this ideology. There really was. I I cannot tell you how many hours I spent researching the schools, digging through all these schools' archives, trying to expose what the schools were doing, talking to parents constantly about the schools. I spent years of my life doing this to try to help people save their kids from this ideology. And now I no longer care. I no longer care. I no longer care if people's kids get affected. I no longer care if people's kids get queered in school. I no longer care if people's kids are going to suffer and die in a communist overthrow of this country. I no longer care. And that might sound harsh, but the fact of the matter is I tried to warn people. They didn't listen. They lied about me, smeared me, defamed me. They whined and cried about all the reasons that they couldn't do things over and over and over again. Their media wouldn't report on it. They continued to listen to people who lied to them. They refused to look at primary source evidence. At some point, you have to say, you get what you fucking deserve. You get what you deserve. You're mean and a narcissist. I don't fucking care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. If you want to save your kids, then you need to take action to save your kids. If you want to stop the left whining and complaining and memeing on Twitter and lying to yourself and saying, we're going to cut off their funding when there's no funding mechanism that exists, and everyone fucking knows this. The left talks about this all the time. They talk about how they're funded. They talk about how it's decentralized, non-hierarchical. It's all through mutual fucking aid. But these people never listen, and they just make shit up, and their audience laps it up with a spoon. So guess what? Your kids are going to suffer, and it's going to be entirely your fault because you didn't do anything to stop it. Thanks so much, Tolkien fan, for the super chat, especially after that very uplifting sermon I just gave. The right is incredibly lazy and willfully ignorant, never looking further than headlines and clickbait social media outrage. Get in line or get out of our fucking way. Yep. All right, that was fun. Well, we'll anxiously wait for Kash Patel to release his secret information about Antifa. But let's go watch our let's dig into our queer liberation podcast, shall we? So I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea what they're going to say. This is on a YouTube channel called Comrade Felicity. It is called On Queer Liberation and Labor Struggle with Comrade Marina. And so this looks to be a couple of communists talking about queer and communism. Let's get this party started.
Folks, welcome back to Liberation Hour. And as always, right before we get started, we have the top of the hour disclaimer. WRFU is an open forum for the Urbana-Champaign online community. Views expressed are those of the speakers and are not...
This is a college radio station. Am I too loud? I'm probably too loud. Hang on, turn my sound on. That should turn my sound on anyway. This is a college radio station. Oh, this is going to be glorious.
Intended to represent WRFU UCIMC. All right. Shall we? Shall we get into it? I suppose we shall. All right, folks. So we have a couple of announcements today. It's the same old stuff. Red Youth Rising tenant campaign will be kicking off very soon. Keep a lookout. If you are a student looking to unionize your building,
unions.
If you're a regular person looking to unionize your building, looking to form a tenants union, please reach out to Red Youth Rising. We'd love to work together.
Red Youth Rising.
That, we have labor talks, the first meeting happening September 24th. I believe that's in 3 weeks. 2, 3. I'll have to check my calendar. But September 24th, 6 to 7 p.m. at Channing Murray. If you're interested, come by, listen to What is Marxism Leninism, and come for some snacks. If anything else, free food, folks. Hello. Anyway, that's it for our announcements today, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. We have, oh, that was my chair. We have a few things to cover today. We have actually many things to cover today. I will be starting the first 30 minutes off.
They control the unions, you stupid fucking idiot. They don't have jobs. Oh, yeah? They have college jobs on campus. Those are unionized. They are college professors and graduate assistants. Those are unionized. They might have a part-time job off campus. Those are unionized. They form, do you know they form tenants unions? Have you ever heard of tenants unions? So no, you actually don't have to have a job in order to be in a union, because there are these things called tenants unions that you've never fucking heard about, because all you idiots do is go, they don't have jobs. They do have jobs, you fucking retard. They wouldn't control the unions if they didn't have jobs. No more conservative retardation in the chat.
With the news, we have some interesting news that I have curated for us today to listen to. And then we have the first 30 minutes of my segment with Comrade Marina of Kansas City, the Kansas City chapter of the American Party of Labor.
Oh, good.
Over in the Great Plains region. And we will be discussing queer liberation, queer labor struggle, different historical events which have happened in which queer people have fought for our rights, and what's the future hold. And that will be the first 30 minutes. And then after that, if you're interested in listening to the rest, you can go on over to my YouTube channel in a couple days. I know I haven't uploaded my last episode. There has been a few technical difficulties.
Okay,
So
let's fast forward.
We're
fast forwarding through the rest of the announcements. I want to hear the conversation.
Sides of this, in fact, it's supporting Israel, and also it's not actually a policy of a true communist government. It's truth.
Wait.
Governments and oppressive imperialist powers, but that is not what China is doing, because a lot of these projects that are being built right.
She's saying China is not communist, guys. She's saying China's capitalist. Listen. By the way, that's what the left believes. That what the left is doing has nothing to do with China.
Uplifting projects in the global south to bring people industrialization. What they would be doing first and foremost is uplifting the working class, is supporting working class Marxist groups who currently are trying to rebel against oppressive governments and oppressive imperialist powers. But that is not what China is doing, because a lot of these projects that are being built right now are not necessarily in the best interest of the folks who are living in these countries, but are for the benefit of the Chinese economy. And the fact is that China owns these these dams and these mines. It's not owned by the people, it's owned by Chinese corporations. And just because China has policies of saying, oh well, you can't have $1 billion or we'll literally kill you, that doesn't actually solve the problem. And in fact, it's mainly it's not actually a policy of a true communist government. Truthfully, China is an oligarchy, same as America, the same as the UK, same as the rest of imperialist.
China is an imperialist oligarchy.
Powers, that's what they are. You can really tell if a country is imperialist if it has a stock market. That's kind of a telltale sign. I talked about this in my last broadcast, but we can see truly communist countries are countries that are trying to work towards communism do not. Cuba, for example, does not have a stock market. China does. And it's because China over the years has liberalized. And so we can see with disasters like this that are happening in copper mines that are owned, it doesn't matter if it's owned by Chinese companies or American companies or any other imperialist connected industry or company or firm. This is what happens. People suffer. And frankly, the reporting that was happening on this situation in China is very similar to the reporting that happens here in the United States about disasters that we caused, disasters that our imperialist government causes. We can see that the coverage on things like Gaza have been terrible here in the United States. It has been, if you're not an independent journalist or you're not Al Jazeera, then especially at the beginning of the genocide, or I would argue that the beginning of the genocide started in the 60s, but if we want to talk about after October 7th, there was absolutely no good faith reporting happening on what was happening to Palestinian people. In fact, quite the opposite. Anyone who was Palestinian who was either resisting or wasn't was labeled Hamas, and it is why Israel has justified for 2 years now murdering people. Just cold-blooded murder against the Palestinian people. And while China is not necessarily doing this to people, it is in fact supporting the Israeli.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is what they believe. So it doesn't and I don't know the answer to this either. Are Chinese corporations owned, or are they subject to be owned by the CCP? I don't know the answer to that, but the answer is it doesn't matter for our purposes, because what our purpose is to understand what the left believes. Regardless of what is true, what the left believes is what's important, because what the left believes dictates their behaviors. What I want you to understand from this is the left does not believe that China is communist. They believe China is capitalist. They are not in line with China. And it's important people understand this, because the entire conservative right seems to believe that the entire far left is funded by China. They're just not. The far left does not like China, with very rare exceptions. There is a sliver of Maoists that do support like the CCP and all that stuff, but it's a teeny tiny slice of the overall left. So that is the important takeaway, not whatever the truth is, because the truth doesn't matter to the left. Anytime they talk about China, they're constantly criticizing it.
Government. It is supporting both sides of this. In fact, it's supporting Israel and also trying to support the people of Gaza, which doesn't make a lot of sense. It's basically like the U.S. trying to give aid to Gaza and also giving military weapons to Israel. It's the same principle. And we have to hold imperialist governments by these principles, because they will not hold themselves to it. Point blank. That's just not how it works. And when it comes to imperialism, when it comes to trying to deal with imperial powers, we must hold the same standards across the board, which is that, frankly, Chinese workers are not being treated fairly, and there is a Chinese proletariat that we must recognize is not the same as the Chinese.
No, you don't do anything to them. Our job is not to convince them of anything. They are in a cult. What you do is learn what they believe. Until you understand what they believe, there is nothing else for you to do except sit down, be quiet, listen, learn, ask questions when you have them. But the goal here is not to deprogram them. That is not possible. You cannot deprogram people from a cult that they want to be in.
Government, and it's the same with America. I think that when it comes to imperialism, the first thing we need to remember is there are always working people who are being exploited, whether it be in the imperial core or outside of it, because the global south and the global north can exist everywhere. We can see in countries like the United States, we have some of the richest people that live here and some of the poorest. And I don't exactly know the demographic information economically of China. I know they have significantly better living conditions than us, but it is a similar principle where there are Chinese billionaires. And the fact that they exist, even if the Chinese state holds them quote unquote accountable by murking them, that doesn't negate the fact that they existed in the first place. And under a communist country, which China is not, they wouldn't. And so when we look at stories like the copper mine, I urge people not to be reactionary and immediately either trying to make arguments as to why this is totally fine, or arguments as to why we need to, eradicate China, because usually
That's actually a great question, Reagan. Like, have I tapped you guys out or something? Did you guys donate all your channel memberships yesterday? We got a spy stream coming up in an hour and a half. We've only got one new channel member. Like, listen, I'm not going to do a hard push today. You guys were super generous with channel memberships yesterday. Of course, I appreciate that. I'm just, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. That's all. But like, listen, you guys donate what you want to donate. I appreciate all the donations we get. But yeah, I found it odd too that there has only been one donated gifted channel membership so far. But you know what? That's all good. It's all good.
That comes from fascist rhetoric. What we need to recognize is that China is an imperial power, that they are doing the same imperialism that any other imperialist country is doing, and that there is a Chinese proletariat that we, as an international proletariat, have the same material interests as, and we must not lose sight of that. We must always have compassion for the proletariat across the world, empathy, and understanding that we cannot hold them accountable for what their government and industry is doing, which I'm surprised I have to say that, but I do, because there are a lot of reactionary folks out there who would immediately start using this as a catch-all, like Chinese as a catch-all term for all Chinese people.
Look at that.
But America is a very
TMS.
racist country,
W's in the chat.
and
Thanks,
I
bro.
want to ensure that our Chinese comrades are safe. And so understanding that imperialism exists here and that we must treat it the same way as American imperialism is an extremely important step in uniting the international proletariat. And so this kind of brings me to my next story, also from Inside Climate by Gopal et al. Chicago lead pipes. Folks who live on Chicago's south side that's serviced by lead water pipe, a toxic relic found in most old homes in the city.
I've listened to her talk about China. I want to get to the queer liberation interview, so we're going to fast forward and hopefully the sound gets better. Okay, queer liberation interview. Yo, do we get five channel memberships from Grim? W's Grim. Thanks so much for the memberships. Appreciate it very much. Welcome to all the new channel members. See, sometimes people just need a little push. Just need a little push. Thanks, guys, for the channel memberships. You guys rule.
Because, this is how we win. And so, with the news segment wrapping up, I'm going to go ahead and play you guys my discussion with Comrade Marina.
Yeah, play
in which
that.
We discussed queer liberation and labor struggle. I'm super excited for you guys to hear this. It's going to be an amazing segment. And then after that, we'll go ahead and play the end.
Cynthia in with the 50. You want me to send 10 gifted channel memberships? Cynthia has been banned from sending channel memberships for the time being. So Cynthia and I are devising a system where I will gift out channel memberships when she sends a super chat until she's allowed to send channel memberships again. So these 10 channel memberships are on behalf of the Queen, Cynthia. Thank you guys for thank you, Cynthia, for the super chat. Welcome to the 10 new channel members.
The hour song, and we'll be out of here. All right. And then look out for the rest of this conversation on my YouTube channel at Communist Bananas or Comrade Felicity. I'm super excited to play this for you guys. And without further ado, enjoy.
Hopefully the sound's better.
Hi, my name is Marina.
This is going to be great, isn't it? This is going to be awesome. Just again. Can I get some pink triangles in the chat, please?
Hi, my name is Marina S. I am my pronouns are she and her. I am an organizer with the American Party of Labor, working largely in the Kansas City and Lawrence, Kansas area. In the past, I've worked with the Lawrence tenants as well as KC tenants, as well as some work peripheral to the Trans Protection Party, although I'm not quite as involved
the Trans Protection
with them
Party?
as much. But just generally, specifically working in tenant organizing, as well as anything having to do with that intersection between worker struggles and LGBTQ IA plus struggles is kind of my main focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And so today we're going to be talking about just queer labor struggle.
Hey, W's in the chat for Sid. See, now we're cooking, guys. Thank you so much, Sid, for the 5 gifted channel memberships. Really appreciate it, bro. Really appreciate it. Yeah. So this is in by the way, is this in Kansas City, Missouri, or is this in Kansas City, Kansas? Because I know there's a huge fucking difference between the two, according to conservatives anyway, who seem to think there's a giant ass difference.
Queer struggle in general. You know, when I was making the post actually to, let people know on the gram and everywhere else that we're going to be doing this, I think like some of the first events that I really thought of that I wanted to cover were things like Stonewall and, like actual queer struggle that has happened, which has been largely co-opted by corporations and sanitized to their liking in order to use queerness and pride as a means to make, a profit, when in reality, a lot of these things.
What is it called? What is it called? Do you guys know? Did you guys know that queer Marxists hate pride festivals? The reason they hate pride festivals is rainbow capitalism. They believe that pride festivals have been corporatized for corporations, capitalist corporations, to commandeer pride festivals to make money off of the queer people. And so therefore, queer activists don't tend to actually endorse pride festivals. That's why you've seen kind of like a whole subset, of queer liberation marches pop up. Queer liberation marches are not the same as pride festivals. They're not the same as like the LGBT flag and all this stuff. And so when you're seeing like the gay pride flag and you're seeing all the pride merchandise, that is actually a form of rainbow capitalism to the far left, and they don't support it.
That has happened, which has been largely co-opted by corporations and sanitized to their liking in order to use queerness and pride as a means to make, a profit, when in reality a lot of these things started out as like a very grassroots like struggle against the state and institutions which did not want to recognize queer people as human beings. And so from the perspective of a Marxist-Leninist, when it comes to queer labor struggle, what's like kind of the first thing that you would want to touch on for people to understand, just a baseline kind of?
Yeah, I think
I love it. I love it when people show off what they know about queer theory. Queers are also against homonormative things like gay marriage. That's exactly right. They call gay marriage homonormativity because homonormativity means the gays assimilating to the cultural norms of the straights. Very, very good.
There's a couple of things, but I would definitely want to start off and point out that you can look to the very beginning.
Hang on. We got a super chat from Little Miss here. Much respect, Karlyn. Here is some of my support. My hours have been cut so much, might not be able to donate again until things change. Thanks again. You, Little Miss, you are always so generous with your support and your donations. I'm sorry to hear your hours have been cut, but don't worry about it in the meantime. Just focus on your girls, and, we will be here when you are able to support again. And, you've given so much and you've supported the community so much that don't even worry about it, bro. I really appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate everything you're going to do in the future. You rock. Say hi to your daughters for me. And, everything's going to be fine. You know that. It always is. Wolf, thanks so much for the super chat. What do you think would be a good emote for capitalism? Probably money, right? The money symbol. Literal capital.
Large-scale industrial labor struggles, both in this country and in others. And you will find queer people of varying identities and orientations there on the ground. 1905 in New York City, one of the earliest attempts to unionize garment workers was spearheaded by a woman named Pauline Newman. She was an immigrant from Lithuania, and she became one of the central organizers of the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, and worked as the education director for that organization, including work in their health center, which did like health education. And through that struggle, she actually met her partner, a woman named Frida Miller, and they lived together for 50 years, engaging in both struggles related to both the struggles for unionization as well as improving the lives for working women. So from the very beginning, 120 years ago, there are queer people involved in these struggles. The very first gay rights organization in this country, the first one that really is considered historically significant, an organization called the Mattachine Society, was founded by an individual named Harry.
What is the first chapter of my Queer Marxism book about? Oh, the Mattachine Society. This is how we know this is a true queer Marxist. The fact that this person is actually talking about the Mattachine Society tells you that this person knows their queer Marxism history. Did I not just explain to you guys yesterday how queer Marxism started with the Mattachine Society, which is during McCarthyism, when you were not allowed to be a gay communist, a gay member of the Communist Party, because they thought that it was too easy to blackmail gay people. So they didn't allow openly gay people in the Communist Party, and 5 men who were openly gay communists didn't like that. And so they went on and did their own offshoot called the Mattachine Society, led by Harry Hay. Nick knows who it is. And that was the start of queer Marxism, because that was the original nugget that said we are an oppressed class if we are gay. That is where this idea comes from. No. We're talking about America. We're not talking about Russia and Stalin. The far left universally denounces Stalin. We are talking about what was going on in America, because that is all that matters. Queer Marxism is a mutated strain of Marxism based specifically on things that happen in America. Well, if you know, then why did you say it? Like, no, you obviously didn't know, because you were the one that said it, bro. No, I don't make the fucking rules. Yeah, pay up. I was right. Mattachine Society. I know all about this stuff. They did then too. Why are you making me argue with you, Emma? Do you know it's going to happen very soon if you keep going? This is why I'm the best, obviously. Thanks so much. Let's listen to that again. The first queer rights organization was something called the Mattachine Society. Well, Mattachine Society still exists today, but it's very different today than it was then.
The very beginning, 120 years ago, there are queer people involved in these struggles. The very first gay rights organization in this country, the first one that really is considered historically significant, an organization called the Mattachine Society, was founded by an individual named Harry Hayes, himself both a very committed labor organizer and at the time a member of the CPUSA, Communist Party USA, and in fact simultaneously dealt with a great deal of discrimination at the time within the CPUSA for being a gay man. And at the same time, it did experience quite a bit of discrimination within the Mattachine Society for being a communist. So
so here's what happened with the Mattachine Society. Here's what happened, because this might be confusing to people hearing this queer they them say the gay communist experienced discrimination within the Mattachine Society for being a communist. Let me explain what happened. The Mattachine Society was started by 5 gay men who were all members of the Communist Party. It was started as a communist organization. However, the Mattachine Society grew and expanded very quickly when one of the members of the Mattachine Society basically, so what they used to do in Los Angeles is cops would try to entrap gay people by picking them up as gay hookers, essentially. And so the cops would pretend to be people who were looking for gay hookers. They would find a gay man, they would negotiate a price, they would be going back to that person's house, and then all of a sudden they're getting arrested by the cops who has entrapped the gay hooker because they were discriminating against gay people and blah, 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 blah. Well, one of those gay hookers that was entrapped by a cop was a member of the Mattachine Society. And that person sued the police for entrapping them. And that case became like one of the first big gay rights, like gay civil rights cases in Los Angeles. And so it was like overnight, the Mattachine Society ballooned in size, like very, very quickly. Like all the gay men in Los Angeles all of a sudden wanted to join the Mattachine Society because the Mattachine Society was engaging in this big lawsuit against the cops that they perceived had been harassing them just for being gay. So all of a sudden you had this huge influx into the Mattachine Society of all these gay men who were not necessarily communist and who did not understand that the Mattachine Society started as a communist organization. So you had the leadership of the Mattachine Society. They're still massive commies. They're still pushing that line. But you had this very large new general membership of the organization that were like, we literally just want to be gay and not harassed by the cops. This is kind of the start of what I've explained the other day of the assimilationist, anti-assimilationist threads of gay activism, where you had all these normie gay people that didn't care about being communists and they didn't care about overthrowing the government. They literally just wanted to be gay without being arrested and things like that. Those are your normie gay assimilationists. They want to assimilate to the cultural norms of capitalism. Then you have the communists who want to overthrow the capitalist system, the anti-assimilationists. So the Mattachine Society started as an anti-assimilationist organization, but then ballooned in membership with all of these people who were assimilationist gay normies. And what ended up happening is the original leadership of the Mattachine Society basically ended up getting kicked out, because remember, this was still in the 1950s. McCarthyism was still a thing, and it started to come out in the newspapers because they had gotten all this attention from this trial. It started to come out that maybe the leadership of this organization were communists, which were much more demonized at the time. And then the general membership of the Mattachine Society was basically like, what the fuck? We're not communists, because again, it was really like demonized at that time. And so when this person is talking about the discrimination, the anti-communist discrimination, that is what they're talking about. They're talking about the fact that this was started by communists. It was always a communist organization. The general membership, who just were like normal gay assimilationists, they didn't want to overthrow capitalism. They didn't know that when they joined the organization. And eventually there were so many of the normie gay people that they drove the communists out of the organization. That's what they're talking about. That's what happened. Does everyone understand? Did I explain that well? That's basically what the whole first chapter of my Queer Marxism book is about, by the way. That whole kind of like saga. Well, no. There's still plenty of sane gays and normal gays. Being queer does not mean being gay. Being queer does not mean being trans. Okay. Guys, can we please not with the conservative retardation that every gay person is a leftist? That's just not true. I don't think anyone thinks that's true. If you do think that every gay person is a far leftist, you're not smart enough to be on my channel. Go back to Fox fucking News. There is still many normie gay peoples that are not queer Marxists that are, I mean, my God, I cannot, every fucking time the conservative retardation shows its head. Grim, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm thinking queer is their vision of the perfect comrade, no gender, no hierarchy or relationships, non-conformant to traditional roles and value. Yeah, pretty much. That's a really good way to think about it, Grim. Pretty much. Exactly. Listen again.
Was founded by an individual named Harry Hayes, himself both a very committed labor organizer and at the time a member of the CPUSA, Communist Party USA, and in fact simultaneously dealt with a great deal of discrimination at the time within the CPUSA for being a gay man. And at the same time, it did experience quite a bit of discrimination within the Mattachine Society for being a communist. So there is, even from
multidimensional.
The 50s. Yeah, exactly. There's a serious tension there. So I think that's the first thing that I would want to point out, is from the very beginning, you can find queer people involved in these struggles. And I think that's really important. Obviously, LGBTQIA people are...
Guys, just to put a really fine-tooth point on it, you cannot be queer without being a Marxist. Queer is Marxism. Queer is far-left revolutionary communism. You do not have to be gay to be queer. Straight people can be queer. You do not have to be trans to be queer. Cis people can be queer. People can identify as non-binary. Literally any person can identify as non-binary for any reason. Non-binary is queer. The only requirement to be queer is to be a far left radical. You have to judge these things based on their beliefs. Queer is a belief system. It is a political ideology. It's a political ideology that wants to undermine cultural norms by abolishing the gender binary and the nuclear family. There's other stuff too, but those are the big ones, with the ultimate goal of annihilating capitalist culture norms that reproduce the capitalist system. The only thing you have to be in order to be queer is a far leftist. Not gay, not trans, has nothing to do with it. Does everyone understand this? 1 in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. 2 in the chat if you're confused. It's okay to be confused, but if you are confused, I need you to ask a question that articulates what you don't understand. And by the way, yeah, queer has always been like this, literally since like the 60s. This is not something where the definition evolved. It's always been like this. Cool. Thanks, guys.
A subset of people. Therefore, the overwhelming majority of us are going to find ourselves just statistically as working class individuals, which means in a lot of ways.
It doesn't. This is a fine question. How does queer relate to the economic system? It doesn't. Capitalism is not just an economic philosophy to the left. Capitalism is also a cultural philosophy. It's not just an economic system. Capitalism is not just going into the stores and buying stuff. It is also a cultural model that upholds and reproduces capitalist society by having kids and raising them with capitalist values like gender being binary or the nuclear family. So this has nothing to do with the economic system. Queer is about undermining the cultural system of capitalism, not the economic system of capitalism. Hope that makes sense.
We are always going to need to be in those struggles because it is very directly affecting us, obviously. So that's the first thing. Just look to the beginning of the history and you'll find us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's so much history of queer people being involved, and you can see just from even like I would say now queerness is kind of used because it's more accepted broadly. It's kind of used as like a talking point almost on who's more accepting of queer people. And I would say there's a lot of revisionism in from the capitalist class who say that other countries which don't bow.
The capitalist class is revising queer. How interesting. Hey, thanks, Andre, for the super chat. Thank you for that capitalism explanation. You got it, Andre. Thanks so much for the super chat.
Down to American imperialism. Well, they don't like, it's like you can see this argument always made about Palestinians and why we shouldn't support Palestinian liberation. It's because, oh, well, they hate the gays, and that's just like, first of all, extremely racist, because it's the assumption that people who practice Islam and Muslim people and Arabs are somehow backwards and barbaric. That's always been an assumption made about those people, but also acting as the—
Hang on. We're going to get to the Queers for Palestine explanation in a second. What came first, queer people or queer Marxism? Queer is an anti-capitalist political ideology. So Marxism came first. Marxism developed first. Queer Marxism started developing in the 1950s with the Mattachine Society, with the idea that gay people are an oppressed class under capitalism. So what I explained about the Mattachine Society, that was the nugget of evolution of how queer Marxism started to develop. So again, queer is about being a revolutionary communist. You seem to be saying that queer is about being gay. It's not about being gay. Queer is a political ideology that sees that sees capitalism as a culturally oppressive model. If you go to my website, decodetheleft.com/map, which is where you can find the answers to all questions like this, I will put in the chat right now. This is where I lay out the 5 category groups of the modern left. We have Democrat, Liberal, Progressive, Democratic Socialist, which is where the DSA is going to be, and Revolutionary Socialist. You'll see in this map, these are the 5 categories that we see on the far left. This basically is trying to articulate that Democrats, Liberals, and Progressives are not the same as Socialists and Communists. They're not the same at all. Queer generally, well, hang on. You do see the most amount of queer Marxism in revolutionary communism. However, if you continue to scroll down the page, you'll notice here on this chart, I have the regular LGBT flag, the progress flag under liberal, 1 pink triangle under progressive, 2 pink triangles under DSA, 3 pink triangles under revolutionary socialist to denote how much these different groups engage with queer ideology. No, they don't. They denounce it all the time. No one listens, or no one on the right listens. If you continue to scroll down the page, you will find this. The queer ideology thread, which explains how Democrats, liberals, progressives, democratic socialists, and revolutionary socialists all engage with queer ideology. Because they do engage with it, but it's like trickle down. Queer ideology is fundamentally a revolutionary political ideology. However, does the DSA do things that align with queer ideology? Yes, they do. But they don't do it as much as the revolutionary socialists. So it's like you have the highest concentration of queer ideology in the extreme radical revolutionary far left, because that is where it comes from. And then it trickles down into all the other tiers. So you keep getting less and less. So you have less queer in the DSA than you do in revolutionary communism. You have less queer in the progressive set than you do in the DSA. You have less queer in the liberal set than you do in the progressive set. You have almost 0 queer in the Democratic Party, by the way. It's like pretty much no queer in the Democratic Party. That's not even a thing. So it's a trickle down philosophy. Again, I have to reference you to the page I'm showing. Do you think certain liberal and progressive queers use it as a... No, I don't. No, I don't. Because if you actually listen to their language, they're not using that word. They say the LGBT, or they say it in another way. But they're not talking about this for the most part. And so, no. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to do a debunk. I'm going to tell you this right now. What you're trying to do is say, well, the Democrats are still doing this, or the liberals are... They're not. They're not, beyond what I clearly explain on the website, okay? So please do not, guys. Every time you guys try to rationalize it to make it fit into the conservative bullshit worldview, you are preventing yourself from learning. Every time you take something, but what they really mean is, and you twist it, you are preventing yourself from learning for the sake of upholding the bullshit conservative narrative. Some of you don't realize you're doing that. It's something you need to just get, like, you need to cure yourself of this habit, because this is what conservatives do all the time. They take something, they twist it, they do some sort of mental gymnastics to cope with the fact that their influencers have lied to them. This is about, I'm trying to help you deprogram yourself from the bullshit. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to make everyone feel bad. You listen to people that were supposed to correctly inform you. It is not your fault you got lied to. I understand that, but we need you to cure yourself of this bad habit. And I'm not speaking of you specifically. I'm speaking more generally. No. That's not what I just said at all. I need you to rewind and listen again. That's not what I just said at all. I appreciate the fact that you're taking notes. A lot of people do have a notebook for my streams. But we need to be very clear about this, because words matter and definitions matter. Marx Lives, trick question. Marxism and queer was formulated in the modern era, but ancient humanity lived without private property. No. Well, not really, Marx Lives, because queer Marxists think that capitalism started in ancient Sumeria. these are anti-civilization people. We're just not talking about that aspect of it right now. So no, they don't believe, they actually believe that capitalism started in ancient Sumeria, but we're not talking about that today. That's a different topic. Anyway, let's go back to this. And I don't want to discourage questions, guys. I really don't. I understand that it's frustrating for people to be told that every single thing that you've been told by conservative media is wrong. I really do get that. But like, you have to stop yourself from like engaging with the bullshit, essentially. Like, I can't do it for you. I can't do it for you at all. Hey, thanks W's for Virgo Moon for the channel membership. Really appreciate that, bro. It just takes time. Everyone has to go through it. I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I'm really not. I understand how miserable it is. I've gone through it many times. You didn't derail. You did. You're fine. You didn't derail anything. You're fine. I'm glad you asked a question.
So queerness was not basically made illegal for like most of American history, just completely ignoring that.
No. Taking it, twisting it, getting it to conform to the conservative bullshit. The confusion comes when conservative influencers lie to their audiences and post clickbait to convince their audiences of things that aren't true and take things out of context and lie about it. And so no. Your confusion, I promise you, comes entirely from your own media that has lied to you. And the sooner you accept this and just engage with the primary sources without rationalizing it or explaining it away, the more you're going to learn. Hey, W for Deets for the membership. Really appreciate it, bro. You rule.
Fact. American imperialism will use any and every opportunity to say, well, actually, we're so progressive now, which is why you must support us. And it's like, but you weren't always. It's used as a talking point, And so when I see people using queerness as a queer person, when I see people defending capitalism from the lens of queerness.
As a queer person, when I see people defending capitalism, again,
always, it's used as a talking point, And so when I see people using queerness as a queer person, when I see people defending capitalism from the lens of queerness, saying, oh, well, queer people are so free here. And it's like, really? Because trans folks have been, criminalized in a lot of ways. We can see that.
When this person says trans, they don't mean trans as in transition from man to woman or woman to man. They mean trans as in transcend gender or transform gender. I need people to understand this because this is something confusing that they do, okay? When queer Marxists say the word trans, they are not referring to people who stay within the binary, like Blair White, transitioning from man to woman, because man to woman still upholds the gender binary. It still upholds the gender categorization. When this person says trans, they mean transcend gender, go beyond the gender binary, transform gender, transform the gender binary into something else. Does everyone understand that? If you don't believe me, just Google transforming gender or transcending gender and see how much shit comes up.
In red states and blue states alike, how trans folks have been oftentimes demonized in these places and everything. And it's when we look at the labor struggle as well, something I like to think of it as is like, is it always going to be perfect? No, but there is always room for growth in the labor movement. Under communist ideas. What would you think about that?
Yeah, obviously, I think that to try to use the, I would say very...
Well, nope, you're wrong. Do you know how I know you're wrong? Because I've been researching this for 3 years and they use the word assimilation and anti-assimilation specifically. So no, I would stop making assumptions if I were you, because every time I see you make an assumption in the chat, you end up being wrong. Your job is to listen.
Dubious levels of acceptance and rights that queer and particularly trans people experience in this country. as somehow a feather in the cap of capitalists in critique of communism. It really is obviously a very ahistorical view. I mean, you only need to look to the 1950s when there was literally a thing called the Lavender Scare, where it was just taken as an assumption of government policy that gay.
Would you say that queer Marxists think biology and nature is inherently oppressive? No, that's not what they say. What they say is capitalism creates all identity categories. Capitalism created the socially constructed identity category of man. Capitalism created the socially constructed identity category of woman. This is why they say that gender is different than sex. They are talking about gender. They want to eliminate the socially constructed category of man and the socially constructed category of woman because it's the socially constructed categories that uphold capitalist society. So they believe capitalism is inherently oppressive. They are not saying biology is oppressive. They are not saying nature is oppressive. They are saying capitalism is oppressive because capitalism created the gender categories.
People were intrinsically useful to the threat of communist infiltration, particularly in the State Department, but elsewhere in the United States government. And so therefore, regardless of whatever your political positions were, if you were a gay person working for the American government, you were just seen as somebody either who was just intrinsically more likely to be a communist or more susceptible to being influenced into becoming a sort of unwilling agent. So you can even see not that long ago, you know, for many of us in living memory, a period of time where being gay, being queer was just seen as, oh, well, you are practically a commie. That's important to remember. So it has not always been particularly easy in this country for LGBTQ people. And that when it is always very tenuous. And very susceptible to being taken away.
Yeah, no, most certainly. And it's almost like when I was just talking about, you know, modern day, how queerness is used as a reason to support the American empire. Back in the 50s, like you were just saying,
cover the United States, not France.
Queerness was used against us as a means to say, well, you're just a dirty commie. So here's more oppression. You know, here's, you know, it's the fact of the matter is
they
that the capitalist class couldn't care less about, you know, how queer people are treated. Just because gay marriage is legalized doesn't necessarily mean that gay people are wholly accepted. And we can see in, you know, labor movement and labor struggle. I mean, people like to look at like the Soviet Union and say, oh, well, they were so regressive in their policies around, you know, queer folks and everything. And I'm not going to say that they were perfect. They certainly were not great. But we can see in communist societies, like I believe in Cuba, they just legalized like trans women could change their gender on like their like records or their paperwork and everything. Like they were legally allowed to like change their gender now, whereas here in the United States, like being trans is like a highly contested thing. And it's like it's like one of my own family members recently told me that if the United States lifted the sanctions off of Cuba, they wouldn't be communists anymore. And I was like,
wow. Yeah, that is a staggeringly bold statement to make.
It's a statement for sure.
Yeah, like obviously I can't
this is a good question. If their vision of trans is not staying inside the binary, do queer Marxists bother with affirming surgeries, taking hormones, or is that all behavior, mental change to them? They do not believe that you need to have surgery in order to be trans. They do not believe you need to medicalize at all to be trans. And this is really going to blow your fucking mind. They are opposed to the medicalization of children because they believe the medicalization of children makes the children lifelong medical patients, which only feeds into the capitalist system. They believe that capitalism is responsible for all minors who got gender transition surgery that then go on to regret it. Capitalism created detransitioners because they were just feeding the medical system, whereas queer Marxists would say you never had to do anything in order to be trans or queer. Like you literally didn't have to have any surgery at all. And so they actually are opposed to medicalization. Now, they do also see medicalization actually physically changing your body as one of the highest forms of commitment that you can make to queer ideology, essentially. This is in the introduction of the book Transgender Marxism, which is a fucking bitch of a thing to read, but I did actually read it. And so the introduction of the book literally talks about how trans surgery is one of the highest forms of commitment you can make to the ideology because it is irreversible, but they do not believe that it is necessary to medicalize in order to be trans or queer because it is a political ideology. It is not like a biological thing.
Speak to, obviously it is different state by state in the United States, but I can tell you in Kansas and in Missouri, I currently live on the Kansas side of the Kansas City area, but did for
how interesting. The reason I bring this up is I was making a point about Kansas City being a red state, being a red area the other day because it's in Kansas. And I got a whole bunch of backlash from conservatives on Twitter who said, they're talking about Missouri. And I was just like, okay. Well, now it appears we have a trans labor activist communist in Kansas. So can we please, for the love of God, stop saying this isn't happening in red states and making excuses every time we find it happening in red states? I am on the Kansas side.
By state in the United States, but I can tell you in Kansas and in Missouri, I currently live on the Kansas side of the Kansas City area, but did for a while live in Missouri. And essentially, within the last year, and it was in fits and starts, but every trans person that I know in the Kansas City area, in those two states, has had their gender markers, if they had them changed, reverted. There is challenges to the validity of our name changes if we've gone through legal name changing processes. So like, once again, we imagine that there has been so much progress made, during the Biden administration. Look, they turned the colors of the lights on the White House lawn and the trans pride flag. Isn't that amazing?
Target is selling lesbian shirts. Look at that.
Exactly. And they're not anymore. It's amazing. It's amazing how quickly. When I first started going to pride events here in Kansas City, it was kind of just a major topic of irritation. And this is not uncommon. But you would go, and in the sort of pride event where they would have like a lot of like vendor stalls and things, there was always a couple of organizations that you could guarantee would have tables in the vendor section. And that would be the Kansas City Police Department, the FBI, any given military branches, there would always be a couple. And then of course, the Department of Homeland Security, all kind of jockeying against each other to see who was the most progressive. We were the most gay friendly. And now, of course, this year, none of those organizations are present anymore.
Not one.
And obviously, like, I am, at the end of the day, I'm happy to not see those organizations repped. What is ostensibly supposed to be a political event celebrating a massive uprising, obviously, celebrating the Stonewall uprising. But the reasons they're not there is that it's not politically expedient for them under this current administration. And so we can see how quickly a under our so-called very progressive democratic capitalist society, that open support can be taken.
Under our progressive democratic capitalist society. Did you hear them say it? Under our progressive democratic capitalist society. This that Democrats and progressives are capitalists that are upholding capitalism. This has nothing to do with maps. That's like if you think that this has anything to do with maps, you've been listening to too much conservative like retard media, honestly. Like and that's not that I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but like the whole pedophile thing is something that is spun up by conservatives because it creates hysteria and then it makes them money. This is not to say that there aren't problems with people going after kids. Of course that does exist, but it is not related to this. And I have been in rooms where they explicitly denounce it. Of course, you never see that in conservative clickbait content. Also, just as a side note, and I'm not saying this to you, Vanilla Bean, I'm saying just as a general statement, I don't ever want to hear conservatives talking about how much they care about pedophiles again, because they don't give a fuck about the Epstein files, and they're just covering for Trump and all of Trump's friends with the Epstein files, and they're completely okay with like Pam Bondi being just like a completely incompetent like nutcase in front of Congress over the Epstein files and lying about it and covering it up and obfuscating it. So I really don't want to hear conservatives ever complain about fucking pedophiles again. It is not related to this. It is a different thing.
Under this current administration, and so we can see how quickly
that wasn't to you specifically. That
under our so-called very progressive democratic capitalist society, that open support,
progressive democratic capitalist,
literally within a year, it was gone.
And they're
do they know this? Yes. The left understands everything that I'm explaining to you. It is the right that does not understand it, because the right doesn't listen to the left. The left says this stuff openly all the time. They talk about it openly all the time. I have thousands of hours of them on video talking about it. It is not the left that does not understand this. It is the right that does not understand this, because right-wing media and pundits and journalists and influencers lie to their audience constantly. The audience doesn't fact check what's being said. And so it is the right who does not understand. And that is why this is confusing to people. And it's not your fault you were lied to, but the left understands all of what I'm explaining to you. It is your influencers that don't get it. And that is why you don't understand it, because you were lied to by the people you trusted to inform you.
more than willing to, is the thing. Like the American State Department does not give a single, like, does not care at all about queer people. It's simply a talking point for them, whoever's in office at the time. If Trump's in office, okay, screw the gays. We're not about the gays anymore. Bye. But, you know, we have another, if Gavin Gruesome or whatever, Gruesome Newsom, if he, let's say he wins in 2028, not that he will, because
Gavin Gruesome.
Neoliberalism. But like, of course, we'll probably see those folks again at Pride. And it's just like, you know, they were never on our side, because once again, they're always on the side of the capitalist class. And
Gavin Newsom was never on our side, because Gavin Newsom is on the side of the capitalist class. Does everyone understand? Again?
Or if Gavin Gruesome or whatever, Gruesome Newsom, if he, let's say he wins in 2028, not that he will, because neoliberalism. But like, of course, we'll probably see those folks again at Pride. And it's just like, you know, they were never on our side, because once again, they're always on the side of the capitalist class. And as if Gavin Newsom or any of the Democrats are even on the side of gay people, because I mean, we can see in Democrats like Richie Torres, for example. If Richie Torres has no more haters, it's because I am dead. I am one of the biggest haters of Richie Torres. Because the use of your gay.
Do they attend Pride? They do in order to recruit more people to the left, but they don't consider Pride to be one of their events. They aren't involved in the organization of it. They don't like it. They consider it to be rainbow capitalism. But would they go to a Pride festival and hand out flyers? Yeah, sure. Would they go to Pride festival and hang up their posters? Yeah, sure. Would they go to Pride festival and try to get people to come to their events? Yeah, sure, because that just makes good sense. That's strategy. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean you don't utilize it to your advantage. They also organize separate queer liberation marches. Just Google Queer Liberation March. Queer Liberation March is the opposite of Pride. Queer Liberation March is their march. Dyke marches too. Google Dyke March. They organize Dyke marches and Dyke events around Pride Festival weekends. I know because I ran into one last year accidentally that Antifa was tabling at. So, but they do go to Pride. Like they'll go to the parade, but it's not like they're not involved in the organization and they don't support. They believe it's a capitalist endeavor.
Identity as a means to support like fascistic regimes, not even necessarily using his queer identity.
See, look at this.
Democrats are even on the side of gay people, because I mean we can see in Democrats like Richie Torres, for example. Yep. I am his if Richie Torres has no more haters, it's because I am dead. I am one of the biggest haters of Richie Torres. Because the use of your gay identity as a means to support like fascistic regimes, not even necessarily using his queer identity, but his support for Israel, for example, has been so blatant and rampant that it's actually hurting queer folks. Because how many queer folks, we can't know how many queer folks have been murdered by the state of Israel, but we do know that queer folks are not safe when they're being constantly bombed, Richie.
Yeah, and I'm always shocked when we have this when any kind of version of this conversation, like you mentioned earlier, like, you know, why would you want to have any support for Palestinian liberation? Don't you know how much they hate gays? As if there are no.
Yeah, this is actually Sarah with an H is actually making a good point too. So another way they will go to Pride festivals is they might actually be protesting the Pride festival. They might hang up signs saying Pride was a riot, like Stonewall was a riot. I have actually, hang on. Do I actually have that right here? Hang on, I might actually have it. Never mind. I was going to try to find my, oh wait, here it is. Riots work. Stonewall was a riot against police brutality. This is, I got in a queer bookstore. So yeah, so they do protest Pride. That absolutely happens. That's a really good point. Average person, thanks so much for the super chat. The Democrats want as much to do with communists as Republicans want to do with fascists. So true, so true. A glorious analogy, average person. Thank you.
Gay, lesbian, trans Palestinians. I guess it obviously has never occurred to the people making those arguments, which just demonstrates further of how much collectively our culture has dehumanized Palestinian people.
Because they're used as a talking point now. It's strictly used as a talking point when these people's lives are being put in danger 24 hours, 365, 7 days a week by the state of Israel. You know, I don't see queer people being evacuated. I don't see people being evacuated at all from the Gaza Strip. You know, children are dying every single day.
Hey, Cowboy. W's in the chat for Cowboy. Really do appreciate it, bro. Thanks so much. Welcome to all the new channel members. Guys, as a reminder, we do have a spy stream that's going to be starting in about 45 minutes. We're going to hang out here and watch this presentation and break down the language and analyze it and stuff like that. But if you want to join us for spy stream, where we're going to be going inside a live leftist training in about 45 minutes or so, please make sure you're a channel member or you're a member of my Substack. You can join on other platforms as well. But gifting out channel memberships, trying to get 100 new supporters on the channel today, 100 new channel members. That way 100 new people can join us for Spy Stream. And guys, if you get gifted a channel membership by one of the very generous people who is donating channel memberships, please make sure you utilize it. Spy Stream is a great way to go inside leftist trainings, to hear it in real time, to hear it directly from them. It's a great way. You get primary source evidence. You get a front row seat to leftist organizing. We hear some of the craziest shit on Spy Stream you've ever heard. So if you're getting gifted a channel membership, please make sure you take advantage of it. We've had so many new people on Spy Stream lately. Actually, let me do this in the chat. If you are a new channel member and you have recently come to Spy Stream for the first time, only if you've recently come to a Spy Stream, okay? Don't answer this if you're an old channel member. Don't answer this if you've never been to a Spy Stream before. If you have recently attended a Spy Stream in the last couple weeks, one in the chat if it was worth the price of admission with a channel membership. Two in the chat if you think Spy Stream is just really overblown and stupid and no one should take advantage of it. One in the chat if you recently attended a Spy Stream and you think it's well worth the price of admission. Two in the chat if it's totally sucks and it's not worth it. It's a lot of ones. It's a lot of ones. I didn't pay them to say this. In fact, they paid me to be members of the channel. So I appreciate everyone that's come to a Spy Stream recently. Look at all those ones in the chat. And for people who are thinking about joining, it's a great time to do it. And you get about 45 minutes until we do our next one. And if you got gifted a channel membership, please make sure you take advantage of it. 3, you hate that you can't stop watching. Yeah, it's like once you see it, it's like, oh my God. So real.
Of a famine. Children who very well could, if we're going to really make this argument, could be queer, you know?
Yep.
So it's like, what kind of argument is that?
Sarah, thank you.
No, it's a terrible argument. And meanwhile, once again, individuals within the wider LGBTQIA community in the United States who, once again, have this kind of compromised politics are very fond of like touting out the Tel Aviv LGBTQIA film festival as a reason why people should not support like BDS initiatives. And it's homophobic. What are you not going to support one of the largest queer film festivals? As if that was even remotely the point.
TMS,
and it's a really successful.
Look at that. And just like that, we are past the 50%. I haven't even really been asking you guys for channel memberships today. You guys rule. We're up to 54 new members of the channel. Can we hit 100 new channel members in the next 45 minutes or so? Let's see. Appreciate everyone gifting some channel memberships. You guys rule.
Successful diversionary tactic for people to use those kinds of events. And it's really upsetting.
As if queer people even have full rights in Israel. They don't. Like, I don't believe you can even get legally married as a gay person in Israel, or you can't get married in the church or in the, like, I'm super fuzzy on the details, but like queer rights, like especially under the Likud party, who is extremely right wing, are not necessarily in good standing with these people in office. They do not care about queer people, you know.
I don't think I'm quite educated enough to really comment there, but it wouldn't surprise me, especially with like, as you said, how far to the right, even relative to like baseline politics in Israel, the Likud party is. It wouldn't surprise me if they weren't exactly particularly supportive of the rights of queer people.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're like, I would say that, especially because Israel is just a pariah state at this point. They're not, like, they were specifically put there by Western powers to have influence in the region. Israel is not there. I talked about this in my last one of my episodes with I believe Comrade Ivana we discuss the genocide and everything going on. And in the lens of queerness and queer people and queer rights, it is not queer rights to bomb innocent people.
No.
And it's like something I think about often is events like the HIV and AIDS epidemic, things that happened not but 40 years ago, in which queer people were in direct harm and danger, and the American government turned the other cheek, as it has done in many other events, like when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans and it was mainly Black people who were displaced. Suddenly, the American government had no idea what was going on in New Orleans. Suddenly, what happens? I don't see any problem. That is how these things are handled, with marginalized communities, with communities who are being put in direct harm of an event that is killing us. The HIV and AIDS epidemic was a horrific situation, which, killed so many innocent, it just regular people, who would just needed medical care. But the Reagan administration did not care because they are extremely homophobic.
Yes. And if you kind of like, I've always found, like, looking at a lot of the documentaries made about the times, particularly like How to Survive a Plague, an excellent documentary if you haven't seen it, just how many important figures within that kind of very radical militant tradition that was building up in the larger gay liberation movement, through the 60s and 70s.
Hang on. Proud American, I don't see a 5 channel membership gift from you on Rumble. So if you got charged for 5 channel memberships on Rumble, I do not see that coming through on my end, but I really do appreciate you trying. And I don't know, did people get memberships? I don't see anyone assigned a membership in the Rumble chat, so I'm not entirely sure that went through on Rumble, but I do appreciate you trying. Or maybe if you tried to do it on YouTube, let me know. I haven't seen it come through here either.
Very successfully killed a lot of that momentum. And I don't necessarily know that I could.
Okay. What you're not understanding is, bro, do you understand, right, that Trump already wrote an executive order saying there are only 2 genders? Do you really think a law is going to stop people who are trying to change culture? Do you really think a law is going to stop them from doing what they're doing? We were deeply committed to culturally abolishing the idea that gender is a real thing. But, now there's this law, so I guess we have to stop teaching that shit in schools to kids who are 5 years old. Tim on Rumble asks, how do they claim to care about a concept like homophobia? They don't. You've watched too much conservative bullshit. Your world's going to entirely open up once you guys stop watching conservative clickbait. I promise you. When you guys stop watching conservative clickbait, you're going to realize just how much bullshit you've been fed by your influencers. Yeah, look what happened in Florida. Did the anti-woke laws in Florida save Florida from being woke? No? Okay.
Speak fully that this is responsible, but I feel like outside, when we came out of the AIDS crisis, like
they don't mean homophobia. Oh God. They don't mean homophobia like you mean it. When they say straight, they don't mean heterosexual. They mean walking the straight and narrow, walking the path that upholds capitalism. This might be too much for conservatives to really grasp today. When they say the term straight, they do not mean one man, one woman. When they say the term straight, they mean upholding the cultural norms of capitalism. Straight means heteronormativity, which are the norms that uphold capitalist society. Really sorry to hear that, Proud American. I wish I could help, but I can't troubleshoot Rumble. Rumble generally sucks. But I really do appreciate you trying, bro. I hope you can get that worked out. Does everyone get that? They don't mean, when they say homophobic, they don't mean you are afraid of gay people. It means you are anti-queer. Because queer is the opposite of capitalism. Straight does not mean heterosexual. I know this is complicated, and I know this is a lot for people. I understand why people are confused. I'm not trying to be a bitch about it, but that's what it means. Anyway.
Into the 90s and the 2000s. And obviously, it's still something that is an ongoing concern. This is not something that's over. We really did have, it seems, a much more tame, much more sanitized gay rights movement. And, you know, not necessarily...
Because it was never about AIDS, it was about overthrowing capitalism. How is not helping the AIDS crisis anti-queer? Because it was never about AIDS, it was always about overthrowing capitalism. Do you understand? Tim, I understand it takes time. And again, Proud American, I'm really sorry that Rumble fucked you over like that. I wish I could help. Do you understand? It was never about AIDS. It was never about gay rights because they don't believe in gay rights. They never wanted gay rights. They never wanted gay marriage. It was always about overthrowing capitalism. That's right. This is not, you're absolutely right, TMS. They use this terminology on purpose. It's not meant for the outsiders to understand. It's not even just that. They are speaking their own language. This is not English. You're not listening to someone speak English. This is their own language. That's like what you're saying is like going to France and expecting everyone to speak English and then being really confused when they're speaking French to be like, are you speaking French just to confuse me? No, they're not speaking French just to confuse you. They're speaking French because they're in France. And in France, they speak French. And when they have conversations with each other, they speak in French because that's the language that they speak. That is their native tongue. These people are not speaking English. They're not using this language to confuse you. They're not even thinking that people like you are going to watch this presentation. This is not for public consumption. This is on their channels meant to talk to each other. They are speaking to each other in their native language. Yes. Yes. And and I'll do you one better. When a gay person is straight, it is called homonormativity. They have a term for it. It's actually a slur. It's not considered a good thing to be homonormative. Homonormativity means gays who assimilate to the straight, the values and the cultural norms of the straights. Thanks, Chevelle, for the super chat. So technically what we is on mainstream media is a beard for the actual truth. Yes! Yes! Do not watch mainstream media if you want the truth. Do not watch any funded media. Don't watch... Guys, I promise you, if you just stop watching Fox News and you stop following libs of TikTok and you stop following literally every major conservative influencer, there are a few good ones that tell the truth, but they're not linked with any major conservative networks. They're all independent in some way. If you just stop listening to bullshit sources and political narratives, you will understand stuff so much easier than being fed misinformation constantly, honestly. Yep. You're learning how to speak a different language. That's exactly right. This is an immersion course into a different language. Yes. Yes. Gay conservatives that uphold capitalism are considered to be straight. Yes. Let's see. I'm just going through the chat, guys. Aha. I thought I had a good understanding of the language of the left, and it turns out I was distracted by smoke and mirrors versioning of it. Watching your content is eye-opening. I appreciate that, Edwin. Thank you. Thank you. All I'm doing is showing you what they're saying. That's it. Cool. Let's continue.
That you can connect those two things specifically. However, we lost a lot of people, particularly in this country, who were incredibly important to the wider organizing and militant movement. And like you said, totally made significantly worse through government inaction, through the denying of funds to research for various medical treatments, something that we're noticing again and again right now with the denying of research. Literally right now, we've had reduction in both the research for AIDS medication and for the distribution
ACT UP movement
of things like HARP and other forms of medication. So it is interesting how much history rhymes when it comes to the AIDS epidemic, and how much we're still living the consequences of that.
And like the larger withholding of resources from folks, just regular people, working class people. You know, we can see when the Trump administration came into power.
Oh no! Just this last year. What do you have, Master Shake? Oh no, I didn't check the anarchist library today. Oh! Oh. 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 By angry education workers towards a revolutionary union movement. This is new in the anarchist library. Should we read this tomorrow? Yeah, I think we'll read this tomorrow. Guys, tomorrow Owen Schroyer is coming on the channel at 7 p.m. Should we read this before we have a chat with Owen tomorrow at 7 p.m.? Just for funsies? The teachers' unions creating a revolutionary union movement? Oh, it's going to take multiple streams. Maybe we won't do it tomorrow. Maybe let's have a live stream tomorrow where we'll watch Owen for a while. I don't know. Don't know. All right. Good find. Good find. We'll read it at some point. Thank you.
After the election and everything, they stopped allowing AIDS medication to like countries in Africa. And many of those people relied on that medication. You know, they weren't getting it anywhere else because we have effectively destroyed their economies and made them completely reliant on the imperialist powers, because that's how imperialism works. You know,
that's how imperialism works.
It's directly related to how capitalist modes of production happen and work. You know, especially when we look at the dividing of the working class. The entire working class should be up in arms right now, just alone about the fact that queer people are not being allowed life-saving medications, are being systematically oppressed in the United States, because queer people are working people first. You know, we are part of the labor movement. You know, we are part of the working class. You talked about that with queer organizers even 120 years ago. You know, we've been there. We are there.
Yes. Yeah, I obviously I think there is a pretty established history of how successful you know, using the identity of queer people as a kind of method of division. So you mentioned specifically we are part of the working force. In the 1960s, there was a transgender woman who worked at a General Motors plant in Ohio. She was a long member of the UAW before she transitioned, and very, very active in her union. And it's very fascinating. Now, she has her own page. You can go look her up on the website for the AFL-CIO, and she is celebrated as a hero. At the time, however, her union did not support her, and eventually she was able to get support from another local, and she was provided
Thank
with
you,
legal
Master
services
Shake.
for helping
Appreciate you.
stand up to employment discrimination and things like that.
That's great.
But the fact is that there has always been kind of this very successful, I don't even know if you would call it a ploy. I don't know how specifically intentional it is, but it's been very good at distracting and not seeing the person as like, no, this is a person who has way more materially in common with me in terms of interests than any kind of differences would be present. So it is very unfortunate, but it's something that's very present even within union and industrial organizing. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's important to hold institutions like this accountable first and foremost, like labor movements and everything, because if we want to see true liberation of the working class, then it needs to be liberation for everyone. None of us are free until all of us are free.
Oh!
And we cannot,
That is the basis of Queers for Palestine, by the way. Palestinians are oppressed by capitalism because of the evil Israeli settler colonists that stole the land from the Palestinians. The Palestinians are in an uprising against their capitalist oppressors. Queer people are oppressed by capitalism, and they are in an uprising to annihilate capitalism. That is what Queers for Palestine means. No one is free until everyone is free.
Even within union and industrial organizing. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's important.
The vast majority of my streams are free on my YouTube channel. So yeah, I have a massive archive of YouTube content. You could spend all day going through it. So, but the very best place to start if you're brand new is to head over to my Substack. That's karlyn.substack.com. Click on new to my work, start here. And watch the re-education class. That's the very best place to start. Then watch How to Speak Socialist. That's a little bit of a longer version of re-education. Then watch this Introduction to Queer Marxism. Start with those three, but you can always watch all my public content like whenever, pretty much, unless YouTube takes it down. It doesn't happen often, but like every once in a while, YouTube will take something down, and even then, you can still find it on Rumble if you're really looking for it. Appreciate the question.
To hold institutions like this accountable first and foremost, like labor movements and everything, because if we want to see true liberation of the working class, then it needs to be liberation for everyone. None of us are free until all of us are free. And we cannot, when it comes to unions, we have seen unions who are much more liberal.
You got it.
They kind of abandoned certain what's the word, like they kind of abandoned certain social movements because it's more convenient,
Yes.
And instead of actually standing up for what's right, a lot of them it's like, oh well, I mean, we're fine, so it's not a big deal to us.
Yep.
We see a lot of trade unionists who unfortunately voted for Trump, and that's not all trade unionists. I know there are plenty of unions out there who are super progressive, but unfortunately, this is not across the board. And this is because of a lot of division, which is created by the capitalist class in order to keep labor movements from becoming more cohesive and actually creating a larger coalition against the capitalist class. If we create, like, it's like, racism is a tool, homophobia is a tool. in order to divide people and keep them apart and separate. I would say that I've heard the point is that we have way more in common with a regular white working class man.
Proud American, 5 gifted channel memberships over on Rumble. Thanks so much, Proud American. I'm really glad you got that to go through. Really appreciate you contributing to the channel. Thanks so much, bro. W's for Proud American, please. He had to fix a credit card problem. Even worse.
Part of a trade union. We all have more in common than we will ever have with like Elon Musk. But a white tradesman nowadays might not see it that way. And it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think there's also a flip side, which in many ways is potentially going to be even more difficult, which is the very awkward conversation that people within the wider queer community are going to have, which is, why is it that in most major cities, if there is a pride event,
they believe that everyone who is part of the working class is part of the same class. And so, yes, they believe that they have more in common with working class people.
Significant one. Why is it that most of them are almost entirely organized and directed by the National LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce?
They're about to shit on national pride events for being directed by the Chamber of Commerce and therefore inherently capitalistic. Why is this National Chamber of Commerce involved in these capitalist rainbow capitalism pride events? Listen.
A significant one. Why is it that most of them are almost entirely organized and directed by the National LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce? That is really concerning.
Folks, just because your landlord is gay does not make him a progressive.
Yes.
It's almost as if, and by the way, these people are not progressives. They're Marxists, and we need to be clear about that. But they use the language to try to confuse people. That is actually something they do that's real. But just because someone is gay doesn't mean they're queer, because queer is a political ideology.
Yes, I remember. I remember a couple years ago tabling with Lawrence Tennant at the Pride event in Lawrence, Kansas, which once again, very progressive town.
I love Lawrence.
At least on paper. Yeah, Lawrence.
I'm a huge Lawrence fan.
Town. But Lawrence also a town incredibly under the influence of its local landlords. And once again, a lot of whom are gay, and they're at Pride, and some even harassing people trying to do tenant organizing at Pride. The sheer amount of opportunistic individuals who are involved in the planning of the mainline Pride events, it really shows. Once again, if you have the Department of Homeland Security actively recruiting at your event, then there needs to be some serious analysis going on of why is it that not only do we not necessarily see how much we have materially in common with a white factory worker, we also
hang on. No, Jenny, you're not confused because they use them interchangeably. You literally just watch them say, just because you're gay doesn't mean you're queer. The left does not use the term gay and queer interchangeably. The right uses the term gay and queer interchangeably. The right uses the term trans and queer interchangeably. You are confused because the right is using the language incorrectly, and that's what's causing the problem. They're not being inconsistent in how they're using the language. They literally just said, just because you're gay doesn't mean you're queer. So they are using the language correctly. It is conservatives and right-leaning commentators who continue to lie to their audiences and confuse them. That is why this is confusing.
Understand why we are not in the same boat with a transgender landlord.
Yeah.
We're not. It's
We are not in the, they literally just said it. We are not in the same boat as a transgender landlord. Why? It's pushing back on capitalist beauty standards. I explained it at the beginning of the stream. It's not about, it's about queering what it means to be beautiful based on capitalist beauty standards. Why aren't they in the same boat as a transgender landlord? Yeah, Jenny, it just takes time. It really does. It just takes time. You're doing great. Landlord means property owner. A transgender landlord is still a landlord. Landlords are the enemy. Private property ownership is the enemy. Capitalism is the enemy. If a trans person owns property and rents it out as a landlord, they are a capitalist, a property owner, not a member of the proletariat, not a member of the working class. Therefore, these people think they don't have anything in common with a transgender landlord. You guys understand? It's not, because queer and trans is not the same thing. Queer is about undermining and abolishing capitalism. Landlords uphold capitalism because it's literally private property ownership, has nothing to do with being trans, nothing. Trans also, by the way, trans in this case probably means transition, which means upholding the gender binary. So that's another way in which the queer people differ from the trans landlord, because the trans landlord probably thinks they're a man or a woman. These people don't think gender exists. They want to abolish gender entirely. So that's another way in which they're different. Does everyone understand what I just explained? The Q got added to the LGBT after gay marriage was legalized, and all the normie gay rights activists left the movement because they had achieved what they wanted to, which was gay marriage. After they achieved gay marriage, all the normie gay rights activists went home and stopped being gay rights activists. The queer people came in and co-opted all their organizations, and that is when you saw the non-binary explosion. This happened in 2015. The reason the Q got added on was because the queer activists were actively co-opting and distorting the system that had been built by the normie gay rights activists. After the normie gay rights activists won, gay marriage was legalized. Queer activists never wanted gay marriage to be legalized, but the benefit of it was after gay marriage was legalized, the normie gay rights activists went and did other things. The queer Marxists took over everything. That's when it got added on. Let me see. Because trans and queer aren't the same. Trans upholds the gender binary, therefore capitalism. Yep, exactly. You got it. How many definitions do they have of trans do they have? Well, as I've explained several times, normie gay rights people and normie trans people who just want to transition from a man to woman or woman to man mean trans as in transition, whereas queer activists do not believe in transitioning because they don't believe in men and women, and they mean it as transform or transcend. So that's two different definitions. One that upholds the gender binary and one that does not uphold the gender binary. Is two definitions too many for you to understand? Capitalist trumps other identities. Yup, true. If you are a capitalist, a property owner, that trumps everything else. Let's see, I'm just going through the chat. Thanks, anti-commie. The normie capitalist LGB are now actively denouncing the rest, but they don't get much attention for the time being. Well, why would they? They already lost. They already lost. That's why. I'm trying to understand the queer endgame to annihilate capitalism. That's it. Get rid of all gender, abolish the gender binary, abolish the nuclear family, annihilate capitalism. No one is saying they don't have kids. They do have kids. So you have to stop making shit up. That's like step number one. Literally, no one has said anything about them not having kids. They do have kids. We watch queer non-binary activists who have kids. So it's not ignorant, and I understand. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but their end goal is to abolish capitalism by abolishing the gender binary and abolishing the nuclear family. Those are the norms, the cultural norms that uphold cultural capitalism. If you don't understand it yet, just let it marinate. It just takes time sometime. No, there will be no gender. Not one gender. One gender is still a category. There will be no gender, no categories.
We also don't understand why we are not in the same boat with a transgender landlord.
Yeah.
We're not. It's.
Hey, thanks for the super chat. Really appreciate it. How would you psychologically profile these two, and how did they get like that? Yeah, I can't do a whole psychological profile off the top of my head. It's also not professionally responsible, by the way. I don't know anything about these people. I don't know anything about their backstory. I don't know anything about what made them what they are. It's incredibly. I'm not saying you don't have the right to ask. You do have a right to ask. But any professional psychologist, which I am actually a professional psychologist, like any professional psychologist that gives you a psychological profile based on watching a 45-minute conversation with someone is being completely professionally irresponsible. I can't do it. I'm very sorry. I don't know anything about them. I've never asked any questions. Is there hope for them? They're in a cult and they're winning. So how do you define hope? They're winning. Their cult is winning. Their cult has captured your public schools. Their cult has convinced your kids that gender doesn't exist. So is there hope? They think there's a lot of hope. They're winning. Appreciate the super chat. Yeah, Josh Slocum is a douchebag with no psychological experience who lies all the fucking time. And if you guys listen to Josh Slocum, I highly recommend you stop, because he's an arrogant fucking douchebag that just like, there's something fucking wrong with that guy. I'm not going to psychologically diagnose his obvious mommy issues either, but Josh Slocum can literally go fuck himself. The amount of problems that asshole has caused just because he's working out his own issues on the internet instead of going to therapy where he damn well fucking belongs, astronomical. So don't fuck with that guy. If you do, you're asking to be lied to. No. It's fine. You're allowed to ask questions. But if you ask questions in a flip way that are not serious and you don't like the answer, it's like, but I appreciate the super chat. Thanks so much. No, this is its own language. I mean, if you need to think of it as a subcultural dialect, then fine. They are speaking a completely different language, though. All right. Guys, we need to wrap up in the next 10 minutes or so. We're going to listen to this for a little while longer. I just want to remind people that we still have not met our channel membership goal. We have, what, 34 more memberships to meet our goal. I know I haven't really been pushing hard today. I do really appreciate all the people who have already donated channel memberships. It would be rad if we could meet that goal in the next, 10 minutes or so. That would be awesome. If we don't meet it, that's fine too, I guess. We're 2/3 of the way there, but it's up to you guys whether or not we meet it, whether or not we invite more people into the channel for tonight's spy stream. But we will be ending in about 10 minutes to go into spy stream. So last chance to get your memberships and to join us for tonight.
Simply not, and that is a major problem. And it's good to see more cities organizing people's pride events that are being organized completely outside of the spectrum. Kansas City has a really great one. It's the best pride event you can go to in town, but still, it's nowhere near as big as the big KC Pride event, which once again completely organized by the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, and it shows. Like right down to the fact that you can't even, families who go to the Pride event can't even bring picnics or coolers with them because they want everyone to go to the food trucks.
Which is ridiculous with these prices. Like, girl, do I look like I can afford food truck? I don't have food truck money. Point blank.
No.
I just don't.
Especially after you spend $15 for a ticket, which
Guardianship over on Rumble, gifting 5 channel memberships on Rumble. W Guardianship. Thanks so much for gifting memberships on Rumble. And as a reminder, Rumble, I have a something going on for you guys for Spy Stream as well. Just stick around the channel. You'll see what it is. I appreciate you guys.
These are ticketed events half the time.
Which is also ridiculous because, Pride started because of the Stonewall riots and because of, I have it written down, the Christopher Street Liberation Day March,
Hey, W's to Carol. Thank you. W's to you for the memberships. Appreciate it. Guys, we might actually hit this membership goal yet.
Which was like the founding Pride event. And it was completely grassroots and was very much based in queer liberation. Not in the capitalist sense of queer people should own private property and should become landlords, but queer people.
Oh, wow. Holy shit. She just said the part out loud. This is about queer liberation, not in the capitalist sense where we should be owning private property. Talk about saying the quiet part out loud. Holy shit. Again.
Written down, the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, which was like the founding Pride event. And it was completely grassroots and was very much based in queer liberation, not in the capitalist sense of queer people should own private property and should be.
Hang on, we got to listen to that again because we just got another 5 channel memberships. Thank you, Dina. W's in the chat for Dina. Guys, are we like 10 memberships away from hitting our goal? Are we like... Well, 11, actually, if we want to be technical about it. We are 11 memberships away from hitting our goal. Let's listen to them say capitalism is private property again, please.
Pride started because of the Stonewall riots and because of, I have it written down, the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, which was like the founding Pride event. And it was completely grassroots and was very much based in queer liberation. Not in the capitalist sense of queer people should own private property and should become landlords, but queer people are human beings and are part of the larger struggle for liberation across the board, and also, one of my favorite lines.
We got another 5 from TMS. Thank you, bro. You've given multiple times this stream. I really appreciate it. W's in the chat for TMS. You rock. Let's see. We're getting close, guys. 94. Holy shit. We're almost there. Is there going to be a hero that puts us over the top? Let's see.
From a podcaster I listened to, Matt Bernstein, in the A Bit Fruity podcast.
A Bit Fruity.
He made an episode kind of on this where he said the first Pride event was sponsored by Capital One. And like that, I think unironically, I think a lot of people do think of Pride that way. They think of Pride as like a sponsored event by a bunch of corporations who literally could not give less of a shit about us.
No.
Like who 20 years ago would have like fired you if they found out you were trans.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we see with Homeland Security and the FBI at these events and everything.
One more from Sarah. Sarah, thank you.
They aren't there because they care so much about queer people and they just want more queer representation. They are there to make a statement. They are there to say, we can be here if we want, and we don't have to be here if we don't want to.
Gracie,
we control the narrative here. And it's the same with the capitalist class. They make Pride look like a super fun, shiny event, which it is. Pride is a joyful event. Pride is amazing. It's meant for queer folks to be able to come out and celebrate ourselves because we should be able to. But when it's co-opted by capitalist greed, and when it's taken over by capitalist narratives, all of a sudden we forget where we came from. You know,
it's almost as though the queer liberationists who are not assimilationists, do not want a corporate pride, do not like big organizations. They think that pride is just a corporate Democrat liberal event and they don't want any part of it because it has too much fucking capitalism. W's for AC Cat with a gifted channel membership. W's for Sid. Do we need like 2 more? Do we have 2 more Intrepid Warriors? We need like 2 more, guys. 2 more. Who's going to be the hero? Who is going to be the hero that puts us over the top? We are so fucking close. Anti-commie! We need 1 more! I know you guys can do it. This is like death of 1,000 memberships, except we're so close to our goal. We're so close. I know you guys can do it. I know you guys can do it. 1 more, guys. Come on. No, you're not going to let this dream die. I really didn't think we were going to meet the channel membership goal tonight. I really didn't think we were going to. Yo! W in the chat for Chevelle. W in the chat for Grim. We did it. We did it. We did it. You guys rule. You guys rule. Did Nick just send one in? We got W's in the chat for Nick. That's another one. We got W's in the chat for Johan. Yo. Do I have the best community on the internet or what? We needed 1. We got 4. That means we're up to 103. I really didn't think we were going to meet the channel membership goal today. I was like prepared for it to be a low day. I was like, I'm not going to push that hard. People have been so generous lately. You guys rock. So we've welcomed 103 new members of the channel tonight, which is awesome because we got to go to Spy Stream. I hate to cut this short. We'll do more queer Marxism in the future, I promise. But we do have to wrap this up so we can get started on Spy Stream. Now, as a reminder, guys, in but a few moments, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be shutting down this stream. Everyone, except for Rumble, I need Rumble to kind of like hang out, okay? Everyone, I need you to go to wherever you are a supporter, whether that be on my Substack, my locals, my Patreon, YouTube channel membership, or Twitter subscriber. Yo, thanks, Darla, for giving us that membership. I really do appreciate it. W's in the chat for Darla. Bringing us up to 104 new members. Guys, we're going to go watch a live leftist training. Where you will find the link to this depends on where you are a supporter. For all of my new channel members, what I need you to do is go to my YouTube channel homepage, and I need you to click on the post tab. And when you are a YouTube channel member, the very first post that will show up is a link to tonight's Spy Stream, so you know where to come and find us. It is not a member stream on YouTube because I have to invite people from other platforms as well. If you are a supporter on my Substack, you will head over to karlyn.substack.com. You will click on this thing right here. You will scroll down, and I'm not going to scroll anymore. But if you keep scrolling, you will find the link to the Spy Stream as long as you're a paying supporter on Substack. If you are a paying supporter in locals, you will find the information there. If you are a paying supporter on Twitter, a Twitter subscriber, you will find the information there. If you are on Patreon, you will find the information there. Rumble, you guys just need to stick around the channel and you will be hooked up. And I really appreciate all my Rumble members. And that is what we're going to do. So now I'm going to end this stream, and we're going to go and start up our Spy Stream. Guys, I really want to thank everyone who donated to the channel today, whether that be in the form of a super chat or a channel membership. As a reminder, I am 100% funded by people like you. I cannot do this unless you allow me to do it, so thank you for that. Tomorrow, we will be having Owen Schroyer on the stream. That should be around 7 p.m. So I might do a little bit of a pregame and stuff like that. Maybe I was thinking we watch some Owen content to get kind of caught up on what he's talking about and stuff like that. So we might pregame some Owen content before he comes and joins us on the channel. I think that'll be real cool. And then we'll be joined by him, and we'll have a little chat. And you know, my perception of Owen right now is that he's good and pissed off. And I like that. I like that. When people are good and pissed off, they're honest. And I DM'd Owen today and I was like, is there anything that you don't want me to ask you? And he said, nope, you can ask whatever you want. And I'm like, Owen, I have questions. I have questions. Vanilla Bean says, good stuff. Thanks for clearing up my questions. Yeah, Vanilla Bean, it is just a process to learn, and there's a lot more to learn. So I do hope you stick around the channel. Check out that new to my work stuff. Again, if you're new to my work and you're not coming to Spy Stream, here's what I want you to do. Go to this screen, and I will put this in the chat. There you go. There you go. And I want you to spend some time watching the re-education class. That's going to be your crash course. That is the best first step when you first start this stuff. So yeah. Yep. And for people who wish they got channel memberships, I don't control who gets them. It is just random, but you're always welcome to buy your own channel membership, or you can join us next time. And hopefully we give out channel memberships a lot on the stream. So, hopefully you get one another day. Guys, that is all I have for right now. I will see you on the other side for Spy Stream. Thank you guys for coming out. A special thank you to everyone who sent in super chats, channel memberships, stuff like that. You guys rule. And I'll see you on the other side, guys. Take care. We'll see you soon.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you here?
That's difficult to answer.
I'm not clear. how is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.